The warning alarms on the mining station Kepler 442b rang out across the metal corridors. Captain Lee Dae-ho put down his morning coffee and walked to the main control room. His boots made soft clicking sounds on the floor as he moved with calm steps. "What do we have, Kim?" Dae-ho asked his chief engineer. Kim Tae-woo looked up from his screen. His face showed no worry, just mild interest. 15 ships coming our way. Big ones. They don't match any human design in our files. Dr. Park So-min rushed into the room. Her white lab coat was still dusty from working in the research labs. "Are they hostile?" she asked. Dae-ho shook his head. "They're moving slow. If they wanted to attack, they would come fast. Kim, send them a basic greeting message." The three humans watched their screens as the alien ships got closer. The ships were beautiful in a strange way. They looked like giant seashells made of metal and glass. Lights blinked along their sides in patterns that seemed almost like music. "They're answering," Kim said. "The translation system is working on their language now." After a few minutes, a voice came through the speakers. It sounded deep and formal. "Greetings, inhabitants of this world. I am Commander Veltar of the Nexari Empire, representing the Galactic Confederation. We come in peace to make first contact with your species." Dae-ho picked up the communication device. "Hello, Commander Veltar. I'm Captain Lee Dae-ho of Kepler Station. Welcome to our little corner of space. Would you like to come aboard?" There was a pause. Then Veltar spoke again, sounding surprised. "You invite us to your station? Just like that?" "Sure," Dae-ho said with a smile that could be heard in his voice. "We don't get many visitors out here. Dr. Park here has been waiting her whole career for this moment." So-min nodded eagerly. She had studied alien life forms for years, but this was her first chance to meet real ones. An hour later, a smaller ship left the alien fleet and came to the station's docking bay. Dae-ho, So-min, and Tae-woo waited at the airlock. They wore their best uniforms, though they were still just simple work clothes. The airlock opened with a soft hiss. 3 alien beings stepped through. They were tall, maybe 7 feet high, with blue-gray skin that seemed to shimmer. They had 4 arms and eyes that were larger than human eyes. They wore what looked like fancy military uniforms, covered in medals and symbols. Commander Veltar stepped forward. "Captain Dae-ho, I presume?" "That's me," Dae-ho said. He held out his hand. "Nice to meet you." Veltar looked at the hand for a moment, then reached out with one of his 4 arms to shake it. His skin felt cool and smooth. "This is Science Officer Kathara and Military Advisor Zondar. This is Dr. Park So-min, our Science Officer, and Kim Tae-woo, our Chief Engineer," Dae-ho said. The aliens looked around the docking bay. Their large eyes took in everything. The bay was clean and well kept, but it was clearly a working space. Tools hung on the walls, and a few small repair robots moved around doing their jobs. "Your technology is interesting," Kathara said. Her voice was higher than Veltar's, but just as formal. "Primitive, but functional." So-min's eyebrows went up a little, but she kept smiling. "Thank you. Would you like a tour of the station?" As they walked through the corridors, the aliens kept looking around. They seemed surprised by some things and amused by others. When they passed the main power room, Zondar stopped. "What powers your station?" he asked. "Fusion reactors." Tae-woo said simply. "Standard setup, nothing fancy." The aliens looked at each other. Veltar made a note on a small device he carried. They visited the research labs where So-min showed them some of her work. She had been studying the local plant life and had grown some interesting specimens under artificial light. "You study biology?" Kathara asked. "Among other things," So-min said. "I'm particularly interested in how life adapts to different environments." "How long has your species been traveling between stars?" Veltar asked. Dae-ho thought for a moment. "Oh, a while now. Time flies when you're having fun, you know?" The aliens didn't seem to understand the joke. They ate lunch in the station's small dining hall. The aliens were curious about human food, though they couldn't eat most of it. So-min had prepared some simple foods that their scanners said would be safe. "Your station is quite isolated," Zondar observed. "Do you have contact with your home world?" "Of course," Dae-ho said. though there can be delays sometimes. You know how it is with long-distance communication. We understand your species originated from a world you call Earth, Veltar said. Is this your most advanced outpost? Deho almost choked on his water. Taewoo patted him on the back. Advanced? Well, I guess that depends on how you look at it. We have studied your expansion into space, Kethara said. Impressive for such a young species. You have perhaps 50 colonies? Something like that, So-min said carefully. After lunch, the aliens wanted to see the station's defenses. Taewoo showed them the shield generators and the few weapon systems they had. These are adequate for dealing with space debris and small threats, Zondar said, sounding like a teacher talking to a student, but they would not be effective against a real military force. Good thing this is a peaceful area of space, Deho said. The aliens spent the rest of the day asking questions and taking notes. They seemed pleased with what they found. As the day ended, Veltar gathered his team in the station's meeting room. Captain Deho, Dr. Park, Engineer Kim. He said formally, "The Galactic Confederation has watched your species with interest. You show promise." "That's nice to hear," Deho said. "We would like to offer humanity a place in the galactic community," Veltar continued. "Of course, as a developing species, you would start as a protectorate. Under our guidance, you could learn much." The three humans looked at each other. So-min's smile became a bit strained. "A protectorate?" she asked. "Yes," Kethara explained. "It is standard for emerging civilizations. You would benefit from our advanced technology and wisdom. In perhaps 500 years, you might be ready for full membership." 500 years, Taewoo repeated slowly. "We know it seems like a long time," Zondar said kindly. "But galactic civilization is complex. There is much to learn." Deho nodded thoughtfully. "I see. And what would this protectorate status involve?" "We would establish bases in your territory to guide your development," Veltar said. "Your military would operate under our command. Your exploration would be supervised. It is really quite generous." "I'm sure it is," Deho said. "Of course, I can't make this decision alone. I'll need to contact my superiors." "Of course," Veltar said. "We will remain in your system for a few days while you consider our offer." As the aliens prepared to return to their ship, Veltar pulled Deho aside. "Captain, I want you to know that we are impressed by what we've seen here. Your people have real potential. With our help, humanity could achieve great things." Deho smiled. "Thank you, Commander. That means a lot." After the aliens left, the three humans stood in the docking bay for a moment. "Well," So-min said finally, "that was interesting." "Protectorate status," Taewoo said, shaking his head. "Under their guidance." Deho looked out at the alien ships through the viewing window. "I think I need to make some calls." "To Earth?" So-min asked. Deho's smile was small and mysterious. "Among other places." The next morning, Dr. Park So-min sat across from Science Officer Kethara in the station's research lab. They had been talking for hours about different topics: biology, physics, technology. So-min found the alien scientist interesting, even if she seemed to look down on human knowledge. "Your understanding of genetics is basic but correct," Kethara said, looking at So-min's research notes. "In time, with proper guidance, your species could develop better techniques." So-min smiled politely. "We do our best with what we have." "Of course," Kethara said. "It is impressive for such a young civilization. We have records of species that took much longer to reach your level." "How long have the Nexari been traveling in space?" So-min asked. "Over 3,000 years, Kethara said with pride. "We were among the founders of the Galactic Confederation. We have guided many young species to maturity." So-min nodded. "That's a lot of experience." Meanwhile, in the engineering section, Kim Tae-woo was showing military advisor Zondar around the power systems. The alien seemed impressed by the human fusion reactors, though he tried not to show it. "These reactors are well designed," Zondar admitted. "Simple, but effective." "Who taught your people this technology?" "We figured it out ourselves," Tae-woo said. Took a while, but we got there. Zondar looked surprised. Your species developed fusion power independently? Sure, Taewoo said. Humans are pretty good at figuring things out when we need to. Remarkable, Zondar murmured. He made another note on his device. Captain Lee Dae-ho spent most of the morning in his office talking on his communication system. The calls seemed to take a long time, and he kept apologizing to Commander Veltar about delays. I'm sorry, Commander, Dae-ho said when they met for lunch. Communications with the inner colonies are a bit slow today. Some kind of maintenance work on the relay stations. Veltar nodded. We understand. Long-distance communication can be challenging. During lunch, the aliens began to demonstrate some of their own technology. Kethara showed them a device that could analyze the molecular structure of anything it scanned. Zondar displayed a personal shield generator that could stop small projectiles. The humans watched with polite interest. They asked good questions and seemed impressed, but not as amazed as the aliens had expected. This shield technology is very advanced, Veltar said, waiting for their reaction. It's nice work, Taewoo said. Good energy efficiency. How do you handle the heat buildup? Zondar explained the cooling system. As he talked, he noticed that Taewoo seemed to understand the principles very well. Too well for someone from a primitive civilization. You seem familiar with this type of technology, Zondar said carefully. Oh, we've seen similar ideas before, Taewoo said. Different approaches to the same problems, you know. The aliens looked at each other again. That afternoon, they were interrupted by the arrival of another human ship. It was larger than the small transport ships the aliens had seen so far, with sleek lines and what looked like heavy armor plating. Admiral Choi Min-ho is here, Dae-ho announced. He represents our regional defense forces. Admiral Choi was an older man with gray hair and sharp eyes. He wore a uniform that was clearly military, though it was simple compared to the alien outfits. He greeted the aliens politely, but with less warmth than the station crew had shown. Admiral, Veltar said, we were not expecting military representatives. Standard procedure for first contact situations, Choi said simply. I hope you understand. Of course, Veltar said, though I should point out that this station appears to have minimal defenses. Admiral Choi looked around the docking bay where they stood. This is a mining station. We don't usually need heavy weapons for digging up rocks. Naturally, Zondar said, though your ship seems well armed for a transport vessel. Space can be dangerous, Choi said. Pirates, asteroid storms, equipment failures. It's best to be prepared. The aliens wanted to inspect Choi's ship, but he politely declined. Military regulations, he explained. I'm sure you understand. Later, another human arrived. Dr. Yoon Hye-jin was a physicist who claimed to be passing through the system on her way to another research station. She was young and cheerful and seemed excited to meet the aliens. I've been studying your ship designs through our sensors, she said to Kethara. The energy patterns are fascinating. You can analyze our ships from this distance? Kethara asked, sounding surprised. Just basic readings, Hye-jin said. Your power signatures, propulsion systems, that sort of thing. Standard sensor data. Zondar frowned. The sensors on this mining station were more powerful than he had realized if they could get detailed readings on Confederation ships. Dr. Yoon, Veltar said, perhaps you could tell us more about human space exploration. How many star systems have your people settled? Hye-jin thought for a moment. Oh, it's hard to give an exact number. We've got research stations, mining, operations, colonies, observation posts. Some are permanent, some are temporary. It depends on how you count them. Approximately, Kethara pressed, maybe a few hundred systems with some kind of human presence, Hye-jin said casually. But I'm just a physicist. Admiral Choi would know better. The aliens stared at her. A few hundred systems. Their intelligence had suggested humanity controlled, perhaps 50 worlds. A few hundred, Veltar repeated. Give or take, Hye-jin said. Like I said, it depends on how you count temporary installations. Admiral Choi gave Hye-jin a look that might have been a warning. Dr. Yoon tends to include every research probe and automated station in her counts, he said quickly. Oh, right, Yijin said, looking embarrassed. I should be more specific about permanent settlements, but the damage was done. The aliens spent the rest of the day asking more detailed questions about human expansion, and the answers they got were confusing. The humans seemed uncertain about their own territory, giving vague responses and contradicting each other on basic facts. That evening, the alien leadership met privately on their ship. Something is not right here, Zondar said. These humans know more than they should. Their engineer understood our shield technology too well, Cathara agreed, and their sensors are more advanced than we thought. They claim to have presence in hundreds of star systems, Veltar said. Our scouts only found evidence of 50. Perhaps our intelligence was incomplete, Zondar suggested. Or perhaps, these humans are not telling us everything, Cathara said. Veltar looked out at the mining station through his ship's viewports. It looked peaceful and simple, just a small outpost in empty space. But now he wondered what they were missing. Tomorrow we will ask to speak directly with Earth's government, he decided. Enough of these delays and evasions. Back on the station, the humans were having their own meeting. Dr. Yoon, Admiral Choi said quietly, you need to be more careful with what you say. Sorry, Yijin said. I forgot we were supposed to be primitive. The whole point is to let them make their own assumptions, Daeho said, but they're getting suspicious. How much longer do we need to keep this up? So-min asked. Admiral Choi checked his communication device. Central Command says they're almost ready. A few more days. Ready for what? Tae-woo asked. Choi smiled, grimly. To show our new friends what humanity really looks like. Outside, the alien fleet waited in the darkness of space, their crews sleeping peacefully. They had no idea that human ships were already moving through the void around them, watching, and waiting just beyond the range of their sensors. The real first contact was still to come. Commander Veltar had made his decision. The humans were hiding something and he was tired of their games. He stood in the communication room of his flagship, preparing to demand direct contact with Earth's government. Captain Daeho, he said when the human appeared on the screen, we require immediate communication with your planetary leadership. No more delays. Daeho looked uncomfortable. Commander, I understand your frustration. But there are some complications. What complications? Veltar asked sharply. Well, there's been some kind of system maintenance on the main communication relays. The engineers say it could be a few more days before we can get a clear channel to Earth. Veltar's large eyes narrowed. System maintenance. How convenient. I know how it sounds, Daeho said. But these things happen. You know how technology can be. Indeed I do, Veltar said coldly. Which is why I find it strange that a mining station can maintain perfect communication with us but cannot reach its own home world. Daeho's smile looked forced. Different systems. Different problems. Captain, I am losing patience with your evasions. We will give you 12 hours to establish contact with Earth. If you cannot do so, we will investigate your system ourselves. The screen went dark. Veltar turned to his officers. Prepare a reconnaissance team, he ordered. I want to know what these humans are really hiding. On the station, Daeho immediately called Admiral Choi and the others to his office. They're getting angry, he said. Veltar wants to investigate the system directly if we don't give him contact with Earth in 12 hours. What did Central Command say? Admiral Choi asked. They need more time. The other fleets aren't in position yet. Dr. Park So-min looked worried. How much longer can we keep pretending to be a simple mining operation? Not much longer, admitted Kim Tae-woo. They're already suspicious. Dr. Yoon's comment about hundreds of systems didn't help. That was my fault, Hee-jin said quietly. No, Admiral Choi said. The truth was going to come out eventually. The question is how we manage it. A new alarm sounded. Tae-woo checked his screens. We've got company, he said. The aliens are sending out scout ships, 3 of them, heading toward the inner system. Admiral Choi stood up. Time to make a decision. Do we let them find our real installations, or do we show them what we've been hiding? Daiho thought for a moment. Let them look, but make sure they find exactly what we want them to find. The alien scout ships were fast and well-equipped. They swept through the system, their sensors recording everything. What they found confused them even more. There were more human installations than their intelligence had suggested, mining platforms around 3 different asteroids, a research station studying the system's gas giant, a small shipyard that looked like it was building cargo vessels, but something was wrong. The installations were all connected by communication networks that were far more sophisticated than they should be. The power readings from the shipyard suggested it was building more than simple cargo ships. And the research station around, the gas giant was gathering helium-3 at an industrial scale. This is not a simple mining system, Science Officer Keithara reported to Veltar. The humans have a major operation here. How major? Veltar asked. The industrial capacity we're seeing could support hundreds of thousands of people, maybe millions. Veltar felt a chill run through his body. But there are only 50 people on that mining station. Exactly, Keithara said. Where are the rest of the humans? The answer came sooner than expected. As the alien scouts continued their investigation, new ships began appearing throughout the system. Not the small transports and cargo vessels they had seen before, but larger ships with sleek designs and powerful engines. We're being surrounded, military advisor Zondar reported grimly. By how many ships? Veltar asked. 37 so far, and more are arriving every hour. Veltar stared at the tactical display. The human ships weren't threatening them directly, but they had clearly been hiding throughout the system, watching everything. Captain Daiho, he said through the communication link. I believe we need to have another conversation. This time, Daiho didn't come alone. Admiral Choi was with him along with someone new, a middle-aged woman in a uniform that was different from the others. Commander Veltar, Daiho said, I'd like you to meet Director Nam Jiwoo. She represents Earth Regional Administration. Earth Regional Administration? Veltar repeated. Director Nam smiled politely. I apologize for the delay in meeting you, Commander. I was dealing with some administrative issues. What kind of administrative issues require 37 warships? Zondar asked. Warships? Nam looked surprised. Oh, those aren't warships. Those are security escorts and research vessels. Standard procedure when we have visitors. Security escorts, Veltar said flatly. Of course, Nam said. We wouldn't want anything to happen to your ships while you're in our space. The aliens looked at each other. The human woman was speaking to them like they were children who needed protection. Director Nam, Veltar said carefully, we have been trying to contact Earth's government for several days. We were told there were communication problems. Oh, that, Nam said. Yes, we had some technical issues with the relay stations, but everything's working now. Excellent, Veltar said. Then you can arrange for us to speak with your planetary leadership. Nam looked confused. Planetary leadership? Commander, I think there's been a misunderstanding. What kind of misunderstanding? Well, Earth doesn't really have a planetary government anymore. It's more of a historical preserve now. The aliens stared at her. Historical preserve? Yes, Nam explained patiently. We maintain it for cultural and archaeological purposes. Most of our administrative functions are handled by the regional offices. Regional offices, Keithara repeated. That's right. I oversee this sector, which includes about 40 star systems. Earth Regional Administration handles policy for maybe 200 systems. There are 12 other regional offices that manage the rest of human space. The numbers hit the aliens like a physical blow. 200 systems? 12 other regions? How many star systems did humanity actually control? Director, Veltar said slowly, how large is human territory? Nam seemed to consider the question. That's hard to answer precisely. It depends on how you define territory. Are we talking about systems with permanent colonies? Systems with research stations? Mining operations? Military outposts? Systems we patrol but don't actually use? All of them, Zondar said quickly. Oh, well, in that case. Nam paused to think. Probably somewhere around 3,000 systems, give or take a few hundred. The silence in the communication room was complete. 3,000 systems. The entire Galactic Confederation controlled fewer than 500 systems total. 3,000. Veltar whispered. Like I said, that's a rough estimate. Captain, Ryuseo Jun just arrived from the Defense Coordination Office. He might have more current numbers. Captain Ryu was a quiet man with alert eyes. He looked like he had been a soldier for a long time. When he spoke, his voice was calm and professional. Director Nam is being conservative, he said. Our current area of operations covers approximately 4,000 star systems, but that includes a lot of empty space we just patrol. 4,000 systems, Kethara said faintly. More or less, Ryu confirmed, though we try not to interfere with developing civilizations in our territory. We have strict policies about that. Veltar felt like the room was spinning. Developing civilizations? In your territory? Oh yes, Nam said. There are quite a few species in various stages of development within human space. We monitor them carefully to make sure they're not disturbed. The Galactic Confederation, Veltar said weakly. Where do we fit in this arrangement? Nam and Ryu looked at each other. Well, Nam said gently, you're in what we call a protected development zone. We've been watching your expansion with great interest. Watching us? For about 300 years, Ryu added. Your species shows real promise. The aliens sat in stunned silence. They had come here to offer humanity protection and guidance. Instead, they had discovered that humanity had been protecting and guiding them. I think, Veltar said quietly, we need to completely reconsider this situation. Director Nam smiled kindly. That might be a good idea, Commander. Commander Veltar sat alone in his private cabin, staring at the data his scouts had gathered. The numbers didn't make sense. 3,000 human systems. 4,000. The Galactic Confederation had thought they were the most advanced civilization in this part of the galaxy. A soft chime told him that Science Officer Kethara wanted to speak with him. Come in, he said. Kethara entered carrying a data tablet. Her usual confidence was gone. She looked shaken. Commander, I've been analyzing the sensor data from the human installations. There are some things you need to see. More surprises? Veltar asked tiredly. That mining station where we first made contact, Kethara said. It's not just a mining station. She showed him the data on her tablet. Look at these power readings. Look at the communication networks. Look at the defensive systems they've been hiding. Veltar studied the information. This is a military command post. Not just military, Kethara said. Look at this section here. They have research labs that rival anything in Confederation space. And here, manufacturing facilities that could build entire fleets. But they told us it was a simple mining operation. They lied, Kethara said simply. The question is why. Before Veltar could answer, his communication system activated. It was Director Nam calling from the station. Commander Veltar, I wondered if you might like to meet some more of our people. General Han Dongmin has arrived from Corps Command. Veltar's heart sank. Corps Command. That sounded even more important than regional administration. Of course, he said. We would be honored. An hour later, Veltar and his officers were back on the human station. General Han was an older man, with white hair and calm eyes that seemed to see everything. With him was another woman in a different type of uniform. Commander, General Han said, I apologize for taking so long to get here. I had to travel quite a distance. How far? Military Advisor Zondar asked. Oh, about 1,200 light years, Han said casually. Dr. Lim Yu-jin came even farther. She's from the Archaeological Conservation Society. Dr. Lim smiled politely. I came as soon as I heard about first contact. This is very exciting for us. Archaeological Conservation Society? Kethara asked. We study and preserve historical sites, Lim explained, including Earth itself, of course. Earth is a historical site? Veltar asked weakly. The most important one, Lim said proudly. Humanity's birth world. We maintain it exactly as it was during our early spacefaring period. It's like a living museum. The aliens looked at each other in growing horror. Earth wasn't humanity's capital. It was a museum. General Han, Veltar said, if Earth is a preserved historical site, where is your actual government located? Han smiled. We don't really have a single government anymore, Commander. Humanity is organized more as a cooperative federation. Different regions handle different responsibilities. But there must be some central authority, Zondar insisted. Well, yes, Han admitted. The Council of Humanity meets every few years to discuss major issues, but mostly, we operate independently. Where does this council meet? Veltar asked. Different places, Han said. Last time it was at New Geneva Station. Before that it was on Harmony Prime. This year I think it's scheduled for the orbital platforms around Kepler 186. More names. More places the aliens had never heard of. Doctor, Lim seemed to sense their confusion. Commander, may I ask what you know about human history? We know your species achieved spaceflight relatively recently, Cathara said. Perhaps 200 years ago. Lim looked surprised. 200 years? Oh my, no. We've been traveling between stars for over 1,000 years. The silence was deafening. 1,000 years? Veltar whispered. Closer to 1,200, actually, General Han corrected, though the early expansion was quite slow by modern standards. But our intelligence, Zondar began, showed you evidence of human expansion beginning about 200 years ago, Han finished. Yes, I imagine it would. That's when we started expanding into this region of space. This region? Cathara asked. The Outer Rim territories, Lim explained. We wanted to study the younger civilizations developing here without interfering with them. Younger civilizations, Veltar repeated numbly. Like the Galactic Confederation, Han said gently. You've been doing very well, by the way. Your expansion has been quite impressive. The aliens sat in stunned silence. They had thought they were the advanced civilization meeting primitive, humans. But the humans had been studying them like interesting specimens. How long have you been watching us? Veltar asked. About 3 centuries, Lim said. Since the Nexari Empire first started expanding beyond your home system. We've been very interested in how your confederation developed. You've been watching us for 300 years and never made contact? General Han looked apologetic. We have strict protocols about interfering with developing civilizations. We only make contact when a species reaches a certain level of technological and social development. And we've reached that level? Zondar asked hopefully. You're getting close, Han said kindly. Your peaceful expansion, your formation of the Confederation, your scientific advancement, all very promising. But you offered to make us a protectorate, Veltar said, his voice growing stronger. You wanted our guidance. The humans looked embarrassed. Yes, well, Director Nam said. We weren't entirely honest about that. You lied to us. We let you make certain assumptions, Captain Deho said. We wanted to see how you would approach first contact with what you thought was a primitive species. It was a test? Kithara asked angrily. More of an evaluation, Dr. Lim said. We needed to know if your species was ready for the truth about galactic civilization. And what is the truth? Veltar demanded. General Han stood up and walked to the viewing window. Beyond the glass, they could see the alien fleet surrounded by human ships. The truth, Commander, is that humanity has been the dominant species in this part of the galaxy for nearly a millennium. We have encountered 47 different intelligent species. 31 of them are still in various stages of development under our protection. 16 have achieved full partnership with us. Partnership? Veltar asked. Equal status. Full access to human technology and territory. Participation in the Council of Humanity. And the Galactic Confederation is one of the more promising species we've been watching, Han said. Your peaceful nature, your scientific curiosity, your ability to work together across different worlds. All very impressive. Dr. Lim leaned forward. That's why we're here, Commander. Humanity would like to offer the Galactic Confederation full partnership. Partnership, Veltar repeated. Not as a protectorate, Han emphasized. As equals. Your knowledge and experience would be valuable additions to the galactic community. The aliens looked at each other. Everything they had believed about their place in the galaxy had been turned upside down in the space of a few days. We need time to think about this, Veltar said finally. Of course, General Han said. This is a big decision. Take all the time you need. Just one question, Zondar said. If humanity is so advanced, why did you let us believe you were primitive? Captain Deho smiled. Because we wanted to see who you really were. Not how you act when you think you're superior, but how you treat people you think are beneath you. And, Veltar asked. You were kind, Dr. Park Somin said. Condescending, yes, but kind. You offered help instead of conquest. That tells us a lot about your character. Commander Veltar looked around the room at the humans who had fooled him so completely. A mining station that was really a command post, a regional administrator who controlled hundreds of worlds, a general who had traveled 1,200 light years just to meet them. I think, he said slowly, we have a lot to learn about humanity. General Han smiled. And we have a lot to learn from you, Commander. 3 days had passed since the revelation, and Commander Veltar still felt like he was living in a dream. He stood in the observation deck of his flagship, looking out at the human fleet that had appeared around them. What had started as 15 alien ships meeting a simple mining station had become something much larger. The human ships were beautiful and terrifying at the same time. They didn't look like weapons, but Veltar now understood that appearances meant nothing when it came to humanity. The sleek vessels that surrounded his fleet could probably destroy the entire Galactic Confederation Navy without breaking formation. A soft chime announced a visitor. Admiral Bei Sujin entered the observation deck. She was the commander of the Yao Human Defense Fleet, and she had arrived that morning from what she casually called the Inner Systems. Commander Veltar, she said politely. I hope I'm not disturbing you. Not at all, Admiral, Veltar replied. I was just thinking. About the partnership offer, I imagine. Veltar nodded. My people are still trying to understand what we've learned. 1,000 years of space travel, 47 species under your protection. It's a lot to process. Admiral Bei joined him at the viewing window. I understand. When I was young, I thought the Terran Federation was the entire universe. It wasn't until I joined the Space Corps that I learned about the other regions, the other species, the real scope of human civilization. How large is it really? Veltar asked. Director Nam said 4,000 systems, but I get the feeling. That's not the whole truth either. It depends on how you count, Bei said. Permanent colonies, research stations, military outposts, systems we patrol but don't inhabit, systems with automated facilities but no permanent population? All of them. Bei was quiet for a moment. Approximately 8,000 systems have some form of human presence, but our area of influence covers much more than that. How much more? We monitor and patrol approximately 15,000 star systems. Most of them are empty or contain developing civilizations that we protect. 15,000 systems. The number was so large that Veltar couldn't really comprehend it. And Earth, he asked, is one small world among many, Bei said gently. Important to us for historical reasons, but not central to human civilization anymore. A new voice interrupted them. Admiral Commander, I hope I'm not interrupting. They turned to see Dr. Quan Jinho entering the observation deck. He was yet another human official, this one from something called the Galactic Development Initiative. Dr. Quan, Admiral Bei said. Perfect timing. The commander was asking about the scope of human space. Ah, Dr. Quan said with a smile. My specialty. Commander Veltar, I understand you're having trouble believing what you've learned about humanity. Can you blame me? Veltar asked. A few days ago, I thought we were the most advanced civilization in known space. You are, Dr. Quan said seriously, in your region of space. The Galactic Confederation represents the most successful multi-species alliance in this entire sector. This sector? Dr. Quan walked to a control panel and activated a holographic display. The image showed a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. Veltar gasped. This is human space, Dr. Quan said, highlighting a section of the map. It covered nearly a quarter of the galaxy's spiral arms. And this, he continued, highlighting a much smaller area, is where the Galactic Confederation operates. The Confederation's territory looked tiny compared to human space, like a small island in a vast ocean. We've been watching your development. For centuries, Dr. Quan continued, you've done remarkably well with the resources and knowledge available to you, but we're still primitives compared to humanity. Not primitives, Dr. Quan corrected. Younger. There's a difference. The holographic display changed, showing historical data. When humanity was at your current level of development, Dr. Quan explained, we controlled perhaps 200 systems. It took us another 500 years to reach our current scope. 500 years, Veltar murmured. But you won't need that long, Admiral Bay said. With partnership comes shared knowledge, technology transfers, cultural exchange, scientific cooperation. What exactly does partnership mean? Veltar asked. Dr. Quan smiled. Full integration into human civilization, access to all our scientific databases, freedom to travel throughout human space, participation in the Council of Humanity, military cooperation for mutual defense, and in return, your knowledge, your perspective, your unique approach to problems, Admiral Bay said. Every species brings something valuable to the partnership. The observation deck's communication system activated. It was Science Officer Kithara calling from the station. Commander, she said, sounding excited, you need to see what the humans have shown us. An hour later, Veltar was back on the mining station with his officers, but they weren't in the simple meeting room this time. Dr. Park So-min had taken them to a section of the station they had never seen before. The room was enormous, filled with holographic displays and advanced computer systems. The walls showed real-time images from across human space, battles between unknown species and distant systems, the construction of massive space habitats around distant stars, scientific experiments that spanned multiple solar systems. This is our regional monitoring center, So-min explained. We keep track of everything happening in this part of the galaxy from here. Kithara was studying one of the displays with amazement. This is a Dyson sphere, she breathed. One of 12, said Kim Tae-woo proudly. We use them to power our largest computational projects. Computational projects? Military advisor Zondar asked. Climate modeling for terraforming projects. Stellar engineering calculations. Galaxy-wide communication networks, that sort of thing. Another display showed what looked like an entire star system that had been converted into some kind of massive machine. What is that? Veltar asked. Manufacturing Center, Captain Daeho said casually. It produces about half the starships used in the Outer Rim territories. An entire star system, Zondar whispered, converted into a factory. We have 43 industrial systems like that one, General Han said, entering the room. Though that's one of the larger ones. The aliens moved from display to display, each one showing them something that challenged their understanding of what was possible. Cities floating in the atmospheres of gas giants, space habitats that housed billions of people, massive ships that looked like they could move entire moons. Commander, General Han said, there's someone I'd like you to meet. A new holographic projection appeared in the center of the room. It showed an elderly human woman with kind eyes and silver hair. Commander, Veltar, General Han said, this is Councillor Park Hyrim, the current speaker for the Council of Humanity. Veltar bowed respectfully. Counselor. Commander, the woman said with a warm smile. I apologize for not greeting you sooner. I was in a meeting with the Alteran Republic about their application for partnership status. Another species seeking partnership with humanity. How many were there? Counselor, Beltar said carefully. I must ask, how many species are part of this human alliance? 16 full partners, she replied. 31 protected species in various stages of development, and 7 species currently undergoing the partnership evaluation process. The Galactic Confederation would be the 8th, Dr. Kwan added. If you choose to accept our offer, Counselor, Park said. The decision is entirely yours, Commander. Veltar looked around the room at all the displays showing the true scope of human civilization. Ships that could crack planets, space stations larger than moons, technology that could reshape entire star systems. May I ask, he said, what humanity's ultimate goals are? With all this power, why not simply conquer the galaxy? Counselor Park's expression became serious. Because conquest creates enemies, Commander. Partnership creates allies. We learned that lesson a long time ago. Besides, Admiral Bay added, we're not interested in ruling the galaxy. We're interested in exploring it, learning from it, protecting the species that call it home. The universe is vast and full of wonders, Dr. Kwan said. We'd rather discover those wonders with friends than face them alone. Veltar was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he looked up at the holographic image of Counselor Park. On behalf of the Galactic Confederation, he said formally, I would like to open negotiations for partnership with humanity. Counselor Park smiled. Welcome to the Galactic Community, Commander. We've been waiting a long time to meet you. As the humans began discussing the details of partnership negotiations, Veltar stepped back to the viewing window. Outside, he could see his fleet surrounded by human ships. But now he understood that those ships weren't a threat. They were a promise that the Galactic Confederation would never again face the universe alone. Captain Deho approached him quietly. Commander, I have to ask, what made you decide to accept our offer? Veltar thought for a moment. You could have conquered us easily. Instead, you offered us partnership. You could have humiliated us for our arrogance. Instead, you were patient with our ignorance. He paused, watching the human ships moving in perfect formation around his fleet. But mostly, he continued, you waited 300 years for us to be ready. That kind of patience, that kind of respect for other species, that's the kind of civilization I want my people to be part of.